Okay, so this is some kata analysis the boys katas this morning. We'll go ahead and play it. Alright, so we'll stop it there. On the first one, we'll reset it back. Okay, so if you look at their feet, they're just not quite sitting back enough. It's because they're not turning their hip enough, and that foot is not quite forward, that back foot more. So it would be much better if we could get that foot turned and they could sit more. If we zoom in slightly, you can see that instead of being a completely straight line, basically from the um, heel, hip, and back of the head, they're actually kind of leaning forward slightly. So if you go from here to the head to the heel, it's actually canted forward slightly. So it would be better if that was completely vertical. That would mean that they were sitting more. And you want that back knee a little more forward. So in this, you want inside pressure between that back leg as it pushes forward. Let's look again. Okay, so still we would like more forward pressure on the front stance as they do their technique. Keep going. Okay, so even here it's a little more prominent. Even though they're going back, they're shifting into a Hanzen Kutsu. You can see that this back leg is not straight. There's a nice bend to it, and it needs to be straight. And then also that the weight is going backwards as opposed to a feeling of pressure forward. Even though they're moving back, there still should be forward pressure from the hips to the knee and those feet flat. So they need to be pushing off that back foot, hips forward more, and bending into it. And the hand can be slightly closer to the leg itself, on that down block. All right, let's back that up a bit, see if we can look at the jump real quick. I'm going to zoom here. All right, so we're going to do slow motion. All right, so you can kind of tell the landing wasn't so hot, but mostly because they are, when they're jumping, he's not jumping and getting both feet. He's got to get both those feet tucked, and he's already, as he's jumping, you can already see that there's a nice lean forward as opposed to going up. So he's, instead of landing on the back foot, when he lands, he's going to land on that front foot, and he's going to land forward. It's really hard to do this in cat stance, but he's landing forward here, where he needs to be completely vertical. So if you want some real angles, if you take this, and then here, he's about 25 degrees forward from where he actually needs to be. So we need to sit back more on that. Alright, so he sits, and then you can also see too when he's landing, he's so far forward his feet are not in line at all. So this, if you look over on the right side, this and this should be basically two lines that are overlapping each other, and there's a large gap in between. And so here's that back leg bent again, not enough forward pressure. If you look over on the leg itself, it needs to be straight. So basically I'm looking at this area here, right? And I'm looking at that back leg, and I'm looking for it to not be curved like it is. Okay, and moving on. Yeah, and when they go forward like this, there really shouldn't be this, really shouldn't be that heel up so much. And the way they're pulling back, they're leaning forward as opposed to sliding that heel back, sliding this heel back, and keeping the hip going forward so you get forward pressure as you do the down block. You can also see how the knee is very much turned in. It would be better if we could get that foot turned around for that. Okay, so as that kick happens, you can see there the hunching of the body, You can see how their heel, we'll zoom in a little bit here. There's a pretty big hunch here. It would be a lot cleaner if we could get their lines straighter on the back and this head not leaning forward this way. Because you can see over on the left hand side when we look, their body totally looks crunched in. And so we want to kind of get rid of that feel and move. And then a little bit, again, this back leg needs to be very straight, needs to be very clean, which it's not. There's a little more forward pressure there, it's great, but because the stance is so straight, so short, there's no reason why this back leg shouldn't be straight. You can see how, if I move this over here a little more, you can see kind of how open that cat stance is there, with this foot basically turning out to the side, where in reality it should be pointing more forward in line, about 45 degrees, but it should be more forward than it is being shown here. Okay, moving on. All right, this knee needs to actually be a little more behind. For the kosadachi, their leg is too close. This foot is too close to the back leg, so the knee should really be more behind and into the calf itself. And then you can also, this is, when you're looking at the geometry of some of their technique, hand should be, this arm should be approximately parallel with the ground, and you can tell that it's really not, so it's a little bit too low. And this arm over here is almost curved when it really should be some nice clean, cleaner geometry with the outside block. Alright, so we're gonna move this over slightly, get this kind of refocused so we can look at that jump again. Alright, so moving that over, we'll see arms don't need to be flying out like that, but let's just look at the takeoff from the left side. So he needs to be leaning back a little more and bringing those, I'd like, he can look up, he can actually look not only up but back slightly, and it would be awesome if the back was actually going slightly more down instead of a little more rotation, because he's going to land flat, which isn't a bad landing. So let's take a look at the other one here. When he comes up, if you could just, it's a little more obvious on the side view, but get those legs up, turn around, and we want the hands, the feet, all the contact landing at the same time. Alright, so again, now this stance is very shallow. He's almost, that hip really needs to come back in order to accentuate the cat stance. We were looking for much cleaner lines here and here. And again, a nice clean line between that heel, hip, and head. And then we want this area in the back where their knees are, we want this area a little more closed. His knee is too far out over here. So this back foot needs to turn a little bit, and we want, in this area right here, we want inside pressure. So the front leg, you put a little bit of outside pressure, but that back leg is actually pushing in toward the other one. So this gap over here becomes small. Alright, so let's look at that spear. He has it finish the stance. His foot is turned in. So even when he finishes the stance, right? So we go through, we see the spear. He hasn't finished the technique. The foot is turned in. The knee isn't bent. For the front leg, that back leg is not straight, and his hips are not forward. You can see the belt, right? So the belt is pointing over in this direction, when the hips and belt and everything should really be more in that forward direction. And you can also see, if we look down here at the foot, the bottom of that foot, you can see that there's a gap basically right there, where the heel is lifting on. So that edge of the foot needs to be pressing onto the mat. And you can actually, it's very prominent here when he's doing the spear, right? You can see on the right-hand side, you can see his whole leg right here is just completely turned in. It's supposed to be front stance, but that is not. That is not. It's clearly not front stance. Okay, and then let's move this here. Move this along here as well. We're going to uncouple this, see if we can get these the same space. So if we look here again, he's stopping, right? So again, the geometry is just not very clean. Shikodachi or square stance means that there should be right angles basically between the shin and the lines across the knee here. So if we look at that and we actually we box this out. Let's box this out. So I go from this corner and I go down. Shiko stance literally means, when they say square stance, it means square. So from the heels up to the shins, and you take that line across, it should be a right angle. What we're seeing here with where he's at there and there. Let's see if we get some angles in there. If we go from here to here, it's not quite 90 degrees when we're doing that technique. So we need to make sure that he can make that happen with the leg and deeper. And then also, when you look at this here, you look at this angle, here and here, that is supposed to be flatter as well. So it should be this arm should be vertical. So the elbow needs to be up. Also, this arm needs to be straight, horizontal with the shoulder. So everything is just a little bit down. He's not squatting enough. He's not putting outside pressure on the knee. Knee needs to be outside there. And it's just not as clean as the kata needs to be. So again, everything just looks, so his back he's got a roll to his back here. There's no forward pressure on the hips. This back leg needs to be straight, and he needs to have more forward pressure on the knee itself. If you look here, it almost looks, on the left-hand side, it almost looks as if his body's sort of collapsing in, sort of hunched in. And then at that kick, you can kind of clearly see it on the right side here as he comes out to kick. We'll move back again as he comes to kick. So we'll move forward. That right foot, when it comes back, it's dropping down to the ground early, right? So here it's dropping down to the ground where his heel should be here. So the leg needs to come from where it is right now all the way back to here where the kick originated, and then it goes down to the ground, which he's not finishing the technique. And then here over on this side, you can see when he's this is a little farther in the kata, he's done the scoop. We'll look at that as well. So let's move this on so that we're both sort of in the scoop section. So again, square on the left-hand side if we're looking. First, he needs to pull that hand more. The elbow needs to be in waki kamae. He does not have a true shikodachi. It is not square in the sense of a 90-degree angle. Both feet need to be turned out at the same angle. And this hand is a scoop, and it needs to basically be following the contour of his leg, which it's not. His arm's almost straight. And you can see the palm of his hand. That palm of the hand needs to be pointing up, not out to where the camera can actually see it. So it needs to be straight up, not pointing forward like it is. And up. And so again, all right, so he has speed and some power, but the kata could be much cleaner, given the basic that he knows. So working on a lot of those fundamentals, getting the back leg straight and whatnot, will really help his performance.